this is it's very interesting. Leading to the next talk, the next talk is going to be about how to use data actually to constantly work on where can you and how can you implement voice. So that's why I'm really looking forward to the next talk by ERGO. Floor is yours, and enjoy the presentation. This is the micro, yeah.
Well, hello. Warm welcome from our side. Great to have you here for our talk on data-driven product design for voice assistants in customer service at ERGO Insurance, which is quite a mouthful. So we are joining you today coming from ERGO Insurance. For those of you who do not know, ERGO Insurance is one of the largest insurance companies in Germany, one of the largest direct insurance companies, and we're, I think, number 5 in terms of market share. And you might be wondering why an insurance company is present at a conference on voice technology, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first of all, hi from our side. We're part of a team called Voice and Conversation, and we'll also explain to you in a bit how this team came to be at an insurance company and what it is that we actually do. So what we want to talk to you today about is what brings us here, what business does an insurance company have as at a voice conference. I'm then going to talk about the part that you just mentioned, which is how data actually drives our iterations, how it drives our product design cycle. And we will then actually dive a bit deeper into 4 different methods that we employ to look at data, evaluate data, and we will share some small insights that we've generated over time working with these data analytics methods. And then in the end, we will also talk to you a bit about how we compile this knowledge and how maybe you can also partake in it. So to get us started, let's talk about what brings us here, and I will hand over to my esteemed colleague, Sven Vanoeteren.
Thank you very much. So I'm very happy that I don't have to explain the hype cycle again, because Thomas did already. Yeah, where do we come from? So we are part of the Innovation and Digital Transformation Office at ERGO. So apart from our core business, the insurance business, we have also this unit, and this unit is about to identify new trends in technology. And we have a great scouting team for this. And then we have also a lab in Berlin where we try out new technologies. And when we think it's worth to put them into our core business, we have also delivery teams. And one of these delivery teams is the Voice and Conversation team in the Innovation Office. And yeah, all this really goes to this hype cycle. We had a research project in 2017. Then we did 5+ Alexa skills first to get in touch with this technology. But as you may know, insurance customers don't want to talk to their insurance company via Alexa advice. So we did a pivot, because we have millions of telephone calls each year. So people calling us every day and have questions about their insurances. So we did this pivot, and from 2020 on, we now delivered more than 15 phone bots that are talking to our customers via telephone. And we developed some core principles when it comes to new voice assistant on a phone. And the first one is our voice assistants are optional. So it's not mandatory for our customers to talk to them via phone. They always have the choice if they want to talk to a real human agent, or if they want to talk to our assistant. Then users can end this interaction at any time. So if they are stuck in the process and say, no, thank you very much, I want to talk to a real human agent now, that's always possible. And we only want to handle non-sensitive calls. Because when someone calls and says, hey, my parents died and I have this insurance, that is something that we don't want to handle with a phone bot for our customers. So when we detect these topics, we always forward them to a real agent. And now I will hand over to Sebastian.
Yeah. So, as we've just learned, we've built these voice assistants for our telephony system. We have quite a few of them because they're all very small, handling very specific use cases according to the principles that Sven just set out. And I basically want to talk real quick about how data drives our product iterations. So we're set up in a very by-the-books Scrum setup. We're both part of a Scrum team consisting of 2 developers and then the 2 of us, and we work in like prototypical 2-week sprint cycles. And because our voice assistants are fairly small software projects, at least on a corporate scale, we're actually able to do this thing where we ship a new product or a product increment every 2 weeks. And the nice thing about being able to ship things to our actual users in such short timescales is that we also get to collect data from these iterations every 2 weeks. So really, we have a lot of opportunity to just release stuff, take a look at how it works, and we can also just launch product increments to learn more about our products and really take a look at the user data that comes back. So we have an analytics system behind all of our voice assistant solutions, and then basically using this data, we follow this agile thinking principle, which you might have seen in different forms in different presentations, which is basically to say that you have an original requirement, you build something to fulfill that requirement, you deploy it so that actual people start using your product, you measure the outcomes, and then you evaluate those measurements. And ideally, if you get a good evaluation out of that data, you can then derive new requirements and keep iterating that way. So this is how, on a theoretical level, data is used in our team to drive our product development and also to improve the products that we already have. Now, to take this into, let's say, like more concrete terms, here are the 4 topics that we want to talk to you today about in terms of approaches or methods that we have in dealing with that data. And those 4 approaches are misunderstood utterances, A/B testing, user survey, and funnel analysis. I'm going to start with misunderstood utterances. And this might be like a no-brainer to most of you because this is a voice conference. But really, I like to bring it up because misunderstood utterances are really the smallest unit in which an interaction between a user and a voice assistant can break down, right? It's something that you said to a voice assistant, it didn't understand you. And really, for me as a product owner looking for places where the product doesn't work as expected, that's kind of like the first place to look. So and on a theoretical level, you also know how this works. Basically, there's a speech model, it has all these training utterances, and if one user says something that can be matched against the speech model, then everything works as expected, you know how to handle this input, and the business logic you define works as it's supposed to. If you have an utterance come up that you can't really match with the speech model, then something needs to happen. And our voice assistants are set up in a way where at this point a flag is being raised, and I, as the responsible product owner for this product, receive a report every day of the utterances that we were unable to handle and led to a customer experience that wasn't very satisfactory. So what this triggers in the end is really just a manual editorial process where we have to look at this data and say, like, okay, do we want to enter this into our speech model? And if so, how do we want to do it? So that's the basis of that. I'm sure you've all done this a million of times. The 2 reasons why I bring this up, even though it's so basic to our process, is that we can get 2 very important things from this process. And one is we can really refine our speech model overall. So starting with like a few intents, looking at all these different utterances, we can get an idea of how this structure maybe needs to be expanded. And 2, obviously, if you have more training utterances, then recognition is going to be better and your voice assistant performance is going to improve over time. So just to give you an example, we have a voice assistant that really just replaces our old IVR menu. So you call in, and instead of pressing a number on your phone, you just tell the thing what you want, and it's going to direct your call. And we started out with like 2 intents, 2 main intents that had like 200 training utterances each. And since we started doing this process, we expanded that structure to about 20 plus intents with 5,000 something training utterances. in a really long and painful process of going through this data day after day after day. But the nice thing is that recognition does get so much better if you put in that work and expand your speech model structure. And also, recognition really improves over time. So we started out with pre-trained utterances, had a recognition rate of about 90%, which is okay, but not so great. And now, about a year later of doing this daily or 3 times a week, we're at 97%, which I'm very happy with, but which also is a point where I say, okay, this might be a plateau and we might not be able to do anything more in training. So this really is my first takeaway for you. Make use of misunderstood utterances as kind of like the smallest learning opportunity that a voice assistant is going to give you, because it really improves quality over time. And now on to 2 methods that are not really concerned with where things break down.
So the next one is A/B testing. So it's about words and structure, and telling you that it can make a difference. To those of you who don't know A/B testing, it's about you have a group of callers, and you have here in this example you have two prompts, A and B, and you want to test if A or B has a better conversion rate. And then you divide your group of callers, and every prompt gets 50% of the callers, and when you measure it, you can see here in this case the variant B is the best or better, so B needs to be chosen for the phone bot. And that is what we do several times. We did it before in our voice assistants. Here's one example where we did another structure and in our prompts. So we have, as I said before, our phone bots are not mandatory, and we have this IVR structure where we ask the people if they want to talk to the phone bot or want to talk to a real agent. So, and we had this established variant, and there we had no greeting. We had we first talked about waiting time, then about the pro-bot arguments, and then we changed these to one and also added a greeting. And what you can see here is that we doubled our rate of people who choose the phone bot just by doing an A/B test. Next example is much more easier. It's about that only a single word can make a difference. As we also heard before from Telecom, that data processing is a big thing, and if you want to talk to a phone bot, you have to first consent to or approve the data consent processing. Sorry. And what we did here is we had also an established prompt, and we were already about 90% said yes or give us their approval, and with only changing the word from record to process and store, we have raised our 2 percentage points here. And you all know when you're about 90%, then it's really tough to get the next percent. Yeah, that's something that we do with A/B testing. And your takeaway: do A/B testing, because do it with as much variance as you can, because you can improve your solutions. Next one is user surveys. So user surveys are a great source for new for insights and for new requirements of your users. I don't think that I have to say something about user surveys. So just step into one that we did, and we have a phone bot launched last year that tells you the status of your health claim. So if you have a bill from a doctor, you send it to us, and then sometimes later you want to know what is the status of this claim. And we ask people in our ERGO customer panel, what are the most important informations that you want to have when you call ERGO? And yeah, the most important for our callers are the expected end of the processing. Then we developed this phone bot, and then we wanted to know if this, what we developed, is this working good for our users. And we add a question at the end of our prompt when it comes to the status of the claim, and ask the people, was this helpful to you? And if they say no, we also added another question and asked them which information would have helped you. So we have a combination of quantitative and qualitative feedback at this point, and can do our phone bots better with that. So what we did, we deleted this old one and now have a much more, hopefully much more better prompt at this time. So we have a new service that gives us a predicted date of the end of the processing. And that is something that we will launch hopefully in the next days. And we will also have a look at it if this helps. And with that, I will give back to Sebastian, but yeah, your takeaway, validate your concepts and just ask users for feedback, because you have the right channel to do that, and it's very easy.
All right, getting back one last time to where things break down for our products, I'm going to talk about funnel analysis. So really, there's a lot of places to look for things going wrong in a voice assistant, because there is stuff going on many different levels, and it's a very complex thing. And sometimes I'm not really sure where even to look for the biggest improvements that can be made, which is where funnel analysis really comes in handy, because it helps me figure out the weak points in our products and the processes that we try to automate by offering voice assistant solutions. If you've ever done conversion optimization on a landing page or for an e-commerce funnel, you might be familiar with funnel analytics. But for those of you who are not familiar with that, I'm just going to try and break this down real quick. So basically, if you think about your product as a linear process, you can kind of visualize it as steps that users have to go through. So for example, in one of our voice assistants that you just mentioned, we have this thing at the beginning where you have to agree to your data being processed to be able to use it. You then go through some sort of identification process. You then have the actual core process, which is the customer's self-service thing that we're trying to do there. And then at the end, you might have something else like a satisfaction survey. And you can think about, and this really only works for linear processes, so you wouldn't be able to do this for something that's circular or where people can go multiple directions, come back to the beginning. It really works for processes that go from A to B and have an end to them. And basically, if you think about this in terms of how many users you have at each step and how many users you lose in between, and try to represent that visually, you might end up with something like this. So maybe you have like 100 users in the beginning, and then with each step, you lose people for various reasons. And at the end, you're just left with a fraction of the people that went in at the beginning. And this, if you represent the number of users with the width of the bar, you kind of get to why this is called a funnel, because it gives you this nice shape narrowing down towards the bottom. And we run these analyses for our voice assistants quite regularly, because there's two very important things I can get from that as somebody responsible for the product's performance. One, I can sort of establish a baseline and get a feeling for what loss in the number of users is okay step to step, because people are going to drop off no matter what. And second, where is a transition that's probably most critical to my process? So for example, if I just take a look at these random numbers here, you have a 10% loss in the beginning, you then lose 5-point-something%, and at the end you have a 30% drop off in users. So if I'm looking for places to improve my product, that's probably where I would want to go, right? The transition from 3 to 4. So going into a more concrete example, we have this aforementioned voice assistant, which will tell you the status of a health claim you've previously filed with us. And this is the funnel view that we get if we do an analysis like this. There's a bunch of stuff to go in here. So for example, you have like if the start is 100%, you have like 7% drop in the beginning. That's because some people really don't want their data processed by a phone bot. And then there's obviously a very huge drop in the end here, because once people are done with something, they don't really want to take a survey, but that's okay. But then also there's this small drop in the middle where it goes from data processing to identification. And the loss there is relatively large, so that told me back then that something was going on with our identification process. So we started to take a look at that to figure out what was going on in the dialogue. The dialogue at this point consists of the voice assistant asking the user for their insurance number or contract number, but it's not just a number, it has a letter combination at the beginning, AB. And so we would ask the user, please tell me your insurance number starting with AB, and then the user would reply back. But what came back wasn't necessarily AB. Sometimes the speech-to-text module would give us stuff back that was phonetically similar, but not quite the same. So you would have stuff like a B or maybe trying to match the AB input to a word. And that would really throw the voice assistant off because we hadn't given it a way to handle this kind of input. So we really needed to go in and teach the voice assistant programmatically at this point that basically just ignore the input you get at the beginning, just focus on the numbers, and then simply reattach what you want to have in terms of a letter input. And that really did help to improve our conversion rate for this particular project. We still have the large drop at the end, so people still don't want to take our survey, but the important part is we don't have as large a drop in the identification process, and so more people make it to the core process of why they actually called. And so if we didn't have this funnel analysis, I maybe would have discovered this, but it was jumping out at me once I looked at this view of, okay, where do I lose most of my users, and what do I need to focus my time on accordingly? So the takeaway in this is, if you can and you have the analytics tool to do so, consider your conversion funnel to uncover the weak spots in your process, because that is really a very good starting place for improving what you have in terms of a voice assistant solution. So if you want to take another picture, here's the slide for you, the 4 learnings that we brought along today. Make use of misunderstood utterances because they are a very small but important learning opportunity. Uncover possible conversion improvements through A/B testing, going down even to single words because they can make a difference. Validate concepts before you build them, and then examine your features through user feedback once you've shipped them. And also, as last mentioned, consider your conversion funnel to uncover both the baseline performance of your product as well as any weak spots that you might have. Okay, big breath. How am I doing on time? Okay. Lastly, I want to spend like 2 minutes talking about how we carry this knowledge that we gather through looking at all this data forward, and how maybe you can also take a share of that. So today we focused on how you can use data-driven insights to make your products better. And using data, you can obviously get to a lot of great things. You can have robust speech models. You can find best practice solutions on how to handle dialogues in certain situations, how to get the input from your users that you want. You can try and create a frictionless user experience, try to optimize your conversion rates, and then also, if you want, arrive at very finely tuned wordings that really get the best out of the voice assistant's interaction. But then, as you all know, that's only part of what goes into building a great voice assistant. You also need a good technological platform. Shout out to Paloa, I don't know if they're here, but they're outside, go talk to them. And you also need a team that brings along the experience and expertise to really make this work. We like to think that we have reached a good point in all of this now, having done this for like 2 years on a very big scale, handling hundreds of thousands of calls each month. Which is why we try to go even one step beyond the hype curve. And establish this not just as a fixed unit within ERGO, but also to roll it off into its own standalone thing. We've just brought this to market. We like to call it Next Voice, and what we're offering there is basically the distilled knowledge that we derive from all of our voice assistant solutions and try to provide that as a template to customer service in other companies as well. So if you're ever interested in running a pilot with us or are looking to exchange on how best to automize customer service requests, especially in telephony, just reach out to us at Next Voice and we'd be happy to have a conversation. You can do so by sending us an email, by grabbing the two of us during the roundtable discussion or later tonight. Also, if you're interested in how our technology works, you can give one of these two phone numbers a call. That's not going to be us picking up the phone, but rather our voice assistants, one in English, one in German, and they can give you a demo of what we do and what the technology stack that we have is capable of. So, thank you very much for your time and your attention. I look forward to your questions and also meeting all of you either at the roundtable discussion or later today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was a really nice presentation. I liked the insights, and I think it's quite clear that you two have worked in voice for quite some time, because, like, you know, these nice crisp slides with like few, like, you know, points to remember. I think that's what you like learn when you do voice, because you cannot overload the the user and here the audience. Any questions? Because we still have a little bit time before we go to the roundtables.
Could you go back to the phone number, the slide before? Yeah. Thanks. Short comment.
So thank you very much. I have maybe an advice for you to push your or to push or to help your agents, maybe not having so many calls. You can advise them to talk maybe like a machine, like, hello, my name is Robert, and then they switch maybe back to your software.
We'll keep that in mind.
Thank you. Was there another question? Or yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. And just a question, Next Voice, is this kind of a spin-off from ERGO right now? And did you force that?
What do you mean by did we force that?
Did you force the spin-off? Because, well, actually there's a lot of potential in data, right? And I think you're actually working for 2 years right now in like dealing with data, especially like in the insurance area. I was just interested because Next Voice is actually like a spin-off company, or it's just something like a new sub-brand, or what is Next Voice?
Yeah, so it's no, we didn't force it. It's actually part of the plan, because under ERGO we have an umbrella for everything going into new-ish technologies. You might have heard of Nexable, which was our first full digital insurance spin-off for auto insurance. And Nexable is under the umbrella of Nexsurance. The only thing they're forcing there is the whole Next thing. But really under the same umbrella, we're now going to have Next Voice as sort of a standalone unit that provides these services inside the Munich Re group, because ERGO is part of Munich Re as a larger insurance group, but then also to outside customers. So if you go back to the hype curve, it was really always the plan to take it through the motions and start to push it out into the world once it gets to a certain degree of sophistication. And then once we've established that within our own organization, to also take it out into the world, like we've done with Nexable, for example. Yeah.
Perfect.
I think I've got a very specific question to the starting bot you showed before. From the start with the 200 items per the 2 interns to the point now, how many of the time working on it do you actually spend on viewing, creating, annotating training data? Like, I think you need it. Or did you do it yourself? Okay. Yeah, it's mainly this.
Yeah, so we have to take a look at that in maybe 2 stages or 2 phases. I don't know if you remember the graph, but basically it was going up quite quickly in the beginning and then it plateaued for a long time. So in the very beginning, when we first launched this voice assistant, we looked at the data daily, and it was me as the one responsible for the product, and then also 3 people from the business unit who actually knew how to sort these utterances, because I'm not trained in insurance, so I don't really know how to handle the utterances. And so there was 4 people looking at that stuff every day for like half an hour, so like the time really stacked up fast. And I'm still doing that 1 year later, only not daily, but twice a week, but it's an ongoing effort, and you really need to put in that time to get the improvements in speech recognition. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So thank you again very much. I think it was a very interesting talk. We will now go to the roundtable discussions again.